The Deep from The Boys has always been a fan favorite because he is just effortlessly funny.
I'm the peak of human evolution, and you're just a Capabarnia.
And I think Chase Crawford, who plays the Deep, is one of the biggest reasons why the character works so well. In real life, he seems extremely likable. Every time you see him in interviews with the cast, he just has this charismatic energy where everyone seems to get along with him. And he never really comes across like he takes himself too seriously. Now, maybe that's just me glazing, but I do have to give him his flowers because he has been playing this character perfectly for years now. And the funny thing is, the Deep is technically written as a character we are supposed to despise. He is misogynistic, and most of the time he is just a complete idiot. But somehow fans still love watching him, not because he is a good person, but because he is one of the funniest characters in the entire series. Every time he shows up, you already know something stupid is about to happen. The Deep is like the cockroach of The Boys. No matter how many times he should be gone, he somehow survives. But now in season 5, fans are starting to turn on him just a little bit, and I get it, because ever since the beef with Black Noir, people have been turning on him, because Black Noir is also a fan favorite. When the Deep started beef with Noir, then killed him, people got pretty mad. And that's what makes this so interesting, because in the comics, the Deep actually does survive the fall of the Seven. After the Seven was disbanded, he joins another team called True, even though that team didn't even last long because of Homelander completely destroying Vaught's reputation over his killing spree. So if the show wanted to take inspiration from the comics, they could have the Deep survive the entire series. Here is the thing, the comic version of the Deep and the show version of the Deep are two completely different characters. You see, in the comics, the Deep is more professional, quiet, and he kind of just keeps to himself. He is not nearly as much of a joke, and he is not constantly running his mouth, making everything worse, or embarrassing himself in every scene. But in the show, he is genuinely the complete opposite. He barely ever gets the job done, and every time he tries to act serious, it somehow makes him even look dumber. So even though the comics could give us a clue, I do not think we can fully rely on them here, because the show has turned the Deep into a completely different kind of character. But before we can talk about why I actually think the Deep could survive season 5, even after killing Noir, we have to look back at all the times this man should have been done already. Because when you really think about it, the Deep has been escaping consequences since season 1. So in season 1, his first confrontation with Starlight is what puts him on thin ice. That moment showed us exactly what kind of person he was, or he is. He used his position in the Seven to harass Starlight, and from that point forward, he became one of the easiest characters to hate. And what made it even crazier is that this was the Deep at his highest status, but that scandal exposed how weak he really was. Once Starlight spoke up, that kind of showed his true colors, and he started to get pretty emotional. And that should have been the beginning of the end for him. Most characters in this show would not come back from something like that, but the Deep somehow did. He became the joke, then still found a way back into the story. Not because he earned redemption, but because Vought is so corrupt that they actually do not care about morality whatsoever. They only care about image, and once they found a way to use him again, they brought him right back. Then in season 2, we get one of the dumbest survival moments in the entire show, which is the Deep trying to stop the boys with a whale. While the boys are being chased out of the water by sea life, the Deep tries to have his big heroic moment where he uses Lucy the whale to block the boys from getting away. And in his head, I guarantee he thought this was going to be his comeback. I also thought this too. I was like, damn, the Deep is finally going to get his savage moments. But instead, Butcher drives straight through the whale, and the Deep is left there completely traumatized while everything goes horribly wrong. Now that scene could have maybe killed him, but once again, the Deep survives. And that scene perfectly explains his whole character. When he tries to do something important, he messes it up in the dumbest way possible. Then in season 3, we get the Timothy scene, and this is probably one of the most disturbing things the Deep has ever gone through. Homelander forces him to eat Timothy, his octopus friend, in front of everyone at the table. And as funny as the show makes the Deep sometimes, this scene was genuinely messed up. Because for the Deep, sea animals are not just animals to him. They're basically his friends. So when Homelander makes him eat Timothy, he's basically forcing the Deep to murder one of the only things that actually cares about him. And that moment says a lot about the Deep's relationship with Homelander. The Deep is terrified of him. He wants approval so bad badly that he will degrade himself and betray anything he claims to care about just to stay in Homelander's good graces. That scene could have been a turning point where the Deep finally realizes, dude, I have to get away from this man at all costs. He's making me eat my own friend. But he does not. He just keeps trying to prove himself to Homelander. And that's what makes him so pathetic. Then in season 4, the Deep gets even closer to death. He gets into conflict with Starlight and A-Train. Well, technically he was winning until A-Train came in and saved him, but then after A-Train saves the day, Starlight slams a weight into his head after A-Train boxed him up. And that brings us to season 5, where he finally does something that might actually get him killed. He kills Black Noir. Now, this is a massive problem for the Deep because Noir is not just some random person. Noir is obviously a member of the Seven, but he is part of Homelander's inner circle, even though it might not be the real Noir, at least in terms of the image of the team. And even if Homelander does not care about people in a normal human way, he still cares about loyalty and image of the Seven. So if Homelander finds out the Deep killed Noir, he is not going to look at that as just a mistake. He's going to see it as the Deep stepping out of the line, and he's going to, maybe kill him. The obvious theory is that Homelander kills the Deep because he kills Noir, but why do I feel like that would just be too easy for Homelander to do? No, I feel like the Deep's character would have to go out in a deeper way. No pun intended. Since he's literally been here since season 1, and that's very hard to do. You know how many people from season 1 are still in the season? Well, a lot, but season 1, it didn't make it to season 5. But this is where I think the show might surprise us, because the Deep is the person who is known to survive literally anything, might actually make more sense than him dying. The Deep is not the type of character who survives because he is smart, but because he is lucky and useful at the exact wrong times. He is the kind of guy who would be standing in the middle of a massacre and somehow get ignored because everyone has bigger problems to deal with. Homelander might find out about Noir, but if episodes 7 and 8 are dealing with V1, Soldier Boy Marie, and the collapse of Vought, the Deep survives simply because nobody has time to deal with them at all. So if the show ends with the Deep alive, it would be pretty funny, but also kind of fitting. Everyone else gets these huge dramatic endings, and the Deep just survives because people like him always somehow survive. I don't know. Or what if Homelander just lets the Deep off the hook for killing Noir? You know, I mean, he's let the Deep off the hook many of times before. He just had to do something very humiliating. Because the thing is, everyone hates the Deep. The boys don't like him, and everyone in the Seven thinks he's an idiot. So what if Homelander just allows the Deep to live if he keeps doing what he says? Because I don't think the Deep would have a redemption arc. I think after A-Train's redemption arc, we already got enough redemption, I'm not gonna lie. Or maybe he could switch sides, but not in a heroic way, in a snitch way. Because let's be real, the Deep is not doing anything for anyone except himself. But if he realizes Homelander is going to kill him, he's definitely going to run to the boys with some information and be like, dude, I can sell out Homelander. I got all these ideas. I know everything about Vought. Just let me know, guys, and I'll help you. And the boys might hate him, but if he has useful information, they might use him. Maybe he knows where Homelander is going, or could just get them access to a building, a security team, or someone inside the Seven. And then when they're done with the Deep, then they throw him aside or try to kill him, but Deep gets away or something. Or maybe they do kill the Deep. Who knows? Now, do I think the Deep deserves to survive? No, I really genuinely don't think he does. If we're all being honest here, the Deep should have died a very long time ago. But he became just such a great character to keep around that the showrunners probably looked at him and said, why would we kill this guy off yet? Because, let's be real, they have got him on his own podcast spinoff that you can watch on YouTube, and it's a 14-minute long video with 1.2 million views. Brother, of course they're not gonna kill him off, let's be real.